Well, I just read Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline by H.G. Carlton. Oh my gosh. So I joined a dark romance Facebook group, and it seems like everyone kept recommending these books. And so I wanted to check them out, even though I'm kind of new into the dark romance genre. I've read some like Alexander Tor and really liked her stuff. So I thought, well, these will be fun. Boy, was I wrong. Okay, so I guess these books got banned on Amazon at one point for the trigger warnings they have, which is like, I'm trying to find them now. Let's see. None of these conspiracies derive from a belief in anti-Semitism or QAnon, but from my own imagination. Because part of the plot of the book is that there's a group of child predators, and so the main guy, Zaid, is like taking down the rings of child predators. So that's supposed to be his redeeming quality. The part that isn't redeeming is that he's a stalker and a rapist. And it's calling it... okay, this book ends on a cliffhanger. The contents are very dark with triggering situations such as non-dubious consent between the main characters. It's not dubious, it's flat out rape. So non-consent is correct, but that's just another way of saying rape. Graphic violence, human trafficking, stalking, child trafficking. I should have really read this trigger and just known this wasn't for me and just returned these right away and saved myself the 1,000 pages I just read about absolute nonsense. Yeah, so it's also got gunplay, and it calls these kinks: gunplay, somnophilia, which is, I guess, when somebody's asleep, bondage, and degradation. So yeah, this isn't really my bag. But again, when you hear so many people saying how great it is and how much they recommend it, you get curious. So curiosity got the best of me, and now it's here getting the best of you. Alright, so where to begin? So it starts off pretty good. Like, the main character, Adeline, she's got like a snarky voice, which is fine. It's fun in the beginning until it's just not anymore. Let's see. And she inherits a creepy house, which is a lot of fun and seems exciting. And then she starts getting roses left in the house, and then a guy comes over and they're making out, and then she starts getting weird text on her phone from somebody's threatening that the guy needs to leave, and she knows it's the guy leaving her roses. And then that guy kills the other guy and leaves her some of his body parts. And that's really when I should have just tapped out. That really should have been, that should have been, all right, this isn't what I'm into. But I kept reading because, again, people swear these are amazing books. So I think it's like 100 pages in, she finally actually sees him, and then he chases her around and assaults her with a gun. And it's just horrible. It's just awful. It's just a terrible book. And she's got some mystery diary she's found written by her grandma, who was murdered. And it seems like in the beginning she doesn't know her grandma was murdered, though. She just said that her grandma died. So that doesn't really make sense. But again, this book has so many pages, so many unnecessary pages. These books, especially the second book, if you would have cut out all the gratuitous sex, it would have been like a third the size of a book, and honestly, it would have been a much, much better book. Because the plot is kind of interesting, but just these characters being horny for having their dysfunctional sex every 3 pages, it's just, I get it. You guys like each other. He convinced you to fall in love with him by, I don't know, being around aggressively. By treating you like absolute shit, but also being around and being good looking. So yeah, that seems to be the only redeeming quality that men characters need to have in these dark romances, is that they're good looking and rich, and he has those. So apparently having the worst personality of any human on earth is fine, because he's rich and he's good looking. So it doesn't matter that he killed somebody and left their body parts on her door. It doesn't matter that she's filed police reports against him. It doesn't matter that he breaks into her home repeatedly. It doesn't matter that he put a gun inside of her. It doesn't matter that, he can do anything, apparently. And she forgives it because he's good looking and he's rich. I get it's a fantasy. But it's just idolizing dysfunctional, horrific relationships. And it's like, I don't know. It's not my deal. And I just have a really hard time not feeling sad for women who this is their deal. Like, I get power plays and stuff like that can be a lot of fun in a consensual relationship, but this is not a consensual relationship. And the way it starts off, I can't ever flip over into actually liking the male character. I just the entire time hate every time he talks. I hate everything he does. I just hate him the entire time. And she says, so, like, I just randomly opened the book, page 429. God knows I want him to force himself inside me, as a punishment for insulting him. He's going to make me show him how much I want him, by spreading my and inviting him in. God, I hate him. Well, if you hate him, then leave. Or, like, you've already filed police reports against him. Like, tell him that the way he treats you is unacceptable and that you don't want this relationship to continue, and get out of there. Move if you have to. Like, I don't want to be her. I just feel bad for her. And things only get, like, incredibly ridiculously worse. So book 2, she gets kidnapped by the sex ring, and she gets raped by other people, which this time she doesn't enjoy, ironically enough. And even they kind of throw in her face, like, hey, you liked it when he raped you, so what's the problem? And it's just painful. These are incredibly painful, torturous books to read with, honestly, not the worst plot, though. If they could just dial it down from wanting to be at level, 12, violence and sexual aggression, and just dial it down to like an 8, and not have a sex scene every 3 pages, these could be decent books. This could have been one really good book. It did not need to be dragged out to 2, though. That is for sure. Yeah, but they're very graphic. They're very, very violent and very, very graphic. And the sex just is not sexy. The sex just is cringy and horrifying and terrible. yeah, so it's a lot. And then I went to look at her website, and she's got a sweater she's selling that says, "I fell in love with this. I was stalked and I liked it," or something like that. Stalking isn't funny. Rape isn't funny. Um, we live in a world where you can't really just joke about those kinds of things. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's one thing to indulge in a little fantasy. It's another thing to be wearing clothes stating that you're okay with that type of behavior. It's horrifying. It's just horrifying. Like, I am so glad I don't live in this girl's head. I just cannot imagine the nightmare she must have. I spent way too many hours in her head, and I cannot wait to be done with it. I have like 100 pages left, and honestly, at this point, I'm like skimming them, and I don't know if I want to finish it. I mean, I feel like I've come all this ways, and I should just stick it out. This is fucking painful. These books are painful. Oh, so her grandma, it turns out, spoiler alert, I'm just gonna ruin these for you so you don't have to read them. Her grandma didn't get killed by her husband or the stalker that she was cheating on her husband with. She got killed by her husband's best friend. And it doesn't really explain his motive. I guess, I guess her and her grandma were just so hot that men just lose their minds when they see them and have to have them and will murder people left and right, including them, if they can't have them. Apparently that's the author's kink, is men who have to have you or will kill everybody to get you. So painful. So painful. Anyways, so I actually got to live this author's fantasy a little bit. I dated a narcissist who, when I tried to end the relationship repeatedly, would just call me over and over and over from multiple different phone numbers. So, no matter how many times I blocked him, he would just find another phone to call me from, or another phone number on another app or whatever. And I did have to file a police report against him for harassment, to get him to finally stop calling me. And I can tell you, from someone who actually lived it, it's not cute. It's not fun. It's not sexy. It's just torturous hell. So I'm really starting to think dark romance just is not going to be the genre I get into or enjoy getting into. I keep watching YouTubers who review horror books, and they make them sound so fun and exciting and interesting, and then I try to read the books, and I also find myself feeling the same way, just disgusted and turned off, and literally trying not to puke in my own mouth. So I think I'm figuring out who I am as a person and who I'm not, which there's value in that. And again, if you read this and you have a fun time with it and you enjoy, I just don't know how you can enjoy it. But if you do enjoy the outlet of having the fantasy of living through hell, then this book is for you. Anyways, yeah, so this just isn't my thing. I don't watch horror movies. I think I'm not gonna keep trying to read dark. I do have a dark side. I do enjoy like a really dark sense of humor. I tried a couple Matt Shaw books, and I found them also very mixed. I think I'm just finding what my limits as a person are here. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you gotta push your limits to find out where they are. And you gotta try something to see if you're into it. You know the old saying, like, try something once and then you'll know. And now I feel like I know. Now I feel like I know. But again, if you enjoy these, knock yourself out, have a good time. You know, I mean, they exist and they have people who love them because we're all different, and that's great. But it's kind of like the Colleen Hoover thing, where a lot of people are dogging on her books because all the relationships are so dysfunctional and abusive, and it's romanticizing abuse. These are 100% romanticizing abuse. And I just personally can't support or back that, or find it erotic or a turn on or anything else. I just find it really sad. So that's my review. You can save yourself several hours of reading and just, I would say, big time skip on these. But again, some people are gonna love them, and if you think you will, give it a go. But if you don't love book 1, book 2 is only book 1 but on steroids, and even worse. So if you don't love book 1, I suggest you pass on book 2. But if you love book 1, you're gonna really love book 2. Oh my god. Alright. Well, that's it from me. That's my review of Hunting and Haunting Adeline. And may poor Adeline find peace, if not in this life, in the next one.